A riot is the language of the unheard.
And bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
And we have to maintain that cohesiveness and that unity among ourselves in order to be effective in a broader revolution.
It is in your hands now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Our Small Majority. I'm your host, Christian Black.
And I'm your co-host and editor, Matthew Goryczkowski.
Here at Our Small Majority, we go ahead and highlight social issues happening around the globe. We bring different speakers that actually fought inside the civil rights movement and even politicians inside different countries so they can go ahead and talk about their struggles and how we can help. So before we talk about Our Small Majority, we wanted to talk a little bit about ourselves. Myself, I have a background in psychology and criminal justice, and I plan to mesh the two together in order to help prison reform here in the States.
And I studied education sciences and digital filmmaking at University of California, Irvine. Since then, I've been dabbling in various forms of storytelling, focusing primarily on human rights advocacy through the lens of those who have been directly affected by injustices.
And we just wanted to thank you again so much for our recent crowdfunding campaign. We smashed our goals and we even had extra funds in order to donate to a few different organizations. One of the organizations that we donated to was Yemen. And what Yemen does is that they focus on youth of color that are first generation college students and really don't know where to start, how to fill out a college application, where they're going to get the money. So what they do is they pair these students, high school students actually, with mentors for the college that they want to go to. And they help them achieve their goals and even provide scholarships once they're accepted inside that college. And then there was another organization that we went ahead and donated to. And Matt, can you tell the audience a little bit about that organization?
Yeah, so we also donated to the ACLU SoCal organization, which helped to educate and help empower individuals about their rights. They advocate for and against federal, state, and local measures, and when necessary, they file federal and state court lawsuits. So they do all this to defend and preserve the individual rights and liberties that the Constitution and laws of the United States guarantee everyone in this country. So because of your generous donations, we were able to match those.
So after we went ahead and donated, what we did was we actually started working really hard on our first couple of episodes. So we wanted to go ahead and talk to you guys a little bit about that and what to expect. But first, we wanted to tell you about the name of Our Small Majority and its meaning, because there has been a couple of questions floating around, get a few DMs or messages, or even people that I've talked to throughout my day saying, where did the name come from? What does it mean? Why did you pick that? And really, it's a play on words, really. I remember when me and Matthew were trying to come up with a title for the podcast, and we were throwing out different names, like, oh, what's a good podcast name? Like,
Pass the butter, spill the salt.
So, first it just started as like pass the butter. Like we were like, oh, like you're sitting at a table and sharing a meal with someone and like,
sharing stories.
Like sharing stories. And like we sort of played around with that and it ended up being a joke. But we ended up with Our Small Majority because it was sort of a play on words of the difference between the majority and minority in the United States. And throughout American history, the minority groups have really contributed a lot to this country. You can even argue that they built this country. However, there's so little representation and there's so little coverage throughout our general media, and even when it comes to movies or social media or beauty or anything like that, there is very little representation for Black and brown individuals. So what we wanted to do was give a voice and give a platform for minority groups to voice their opinions and to voice their concerns during these critical times for the Black Lives Matters movement. And basically during all eras of American history, because this is a major civil rights movement that's happening right now. And we feel that what would be more meaningful than hearing from the voices of people who have been doing it for years or decades, or people who've just started as well. So we went ahead and wanted to establish this podcast to sort of collect some stories that we already had, or bring together people that we already knew, who we knew had a unique perspective on civil rights, because of their own personal experiences and some things that they had to go through themselves.
Yeah, so the way the podcast started, the idea for it was when Christian went to Denmark a few years ago, and he contacted me telling me just like that he was going to interview people, like certain people, and wanted to know if I was interested in hearing about it. I said, yeah, sure, go for it, record it, and I'll take a listen. And I thought that the interviews were really great. So we kind of just started wondering, like, how can we share this with everybody? How can we make this more accessible to people? Because I think other people would be interested in learning about this kind of stuff. And that's basically how the podcast started.
Yeah, like originally I wasn't even going to, I didn't think for those interviews to be a part of a podcast or to be shared with like on such a mass scale. Matt actually pushed me to share them, because for like, I want to say like a few months, he started his own podcast, and it was really successful. It was really good. And he said, "Hey, why aren't you doing a podcast? Like, you have the stories. I've heard some of your work. You should do something." And at first I was, I don't know, I guess. So I wasn't sure if people would be interested in what I was studying abroad, which was really alternative, prison policy, and how prisons were ran inside Scandinavia, which is, wildly different. They're able to go home on the weekend, they cook their own meals, wear their own clothes, and it just goes on and on and on. And he he knew the value of those stories, and he said that they could be valuable here inside the States as well. And this was before the whole Black Lives Matter movement even happened. Um, so we just got started on it, and we were hopeful, and we said, well, we'll see what happens. And then, you know, this huge social movement sort of exploded right after we started, which was really, really impactful when it came to just inspiring us and to really push towards meeting our goals and making this happen.
So we'll actually be releasing those two Denmark episodes that Christian took with
Mhm.
this episode, and we'll be releasing every Tuesday morning starting June 30th. So we're gonna work on getting the podcast out on every podcasting platform out there, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and even YouTube. So we're very close to releasing all those Denmark episodes.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. It's going to be containing two episodes from the time that I spent in Denmark. One is with a researcher who grew up on a farm neighboring with inmates. So I was like, whoa, what's that like? You know, actually having an inmate as your neighbor and coexisting with them, and, saying hi while you're going to school, because this was around the time that she was going through her childhood, going to elementary school and high school. And then the other interview is with a current Danish inmate right now, and he's going to school himself. However, with COVID-19 and other challenges that he's facing serving a sentence, it's been difficult, but he shares some of his stories on how he's overcome those challenges.
They're really great interviews, so I can't wait to release them.
Of course, follow us on all social media platforms. We have a Facebook and Instagram page that is slowly but surely building. And we do plan on making a Twitter page too, very, very soon.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time. Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday. That is the plan. And as always, thank you for listening to Our Small Majority.